This is just a capstone proposal for a project. I'm not sure if it's, I'm genuinely unsure if it's solid enough to hold anything. But yeah, you'll see what it is on this hastily put together slide presentation. Okay, so my name is Torre Bolingitao, 4 year at University of Hawaii West Oahu, pretty much about to graduate next year. Went to Kalani High School, basically almost almost 8 years back. Uh, Creative media major, mostly in video game design. And okay, well, just skip that. Basically, I found that I've basically just analyzed that there exists an intrinsic link between narrative and video games that have only changed over time due to technology and advancing with the presentation of plot. So basically, as technology got better, you can present the story a little bit clearer, but at the same time, a little bit less open type of thing in the interpretation. Okay. Well, the objective rationale of the research conducted. Well, I noticed some of the most popular single player games out right now, basically a whole lot of them within the past 10 years that everyone talks about. Past 10, actually, maybe past 20, some to that extent. Basically, there's this huge unique story or world that's presented that always has a unique perspective to show for it that everyone keeps revisiting for some reason. And it's like, wonder why. I wonder why this keeps getting revisited. So most of my senior capstone plan is just building a game with a narrative concurrent to this. Basically, build a game with a narrative and then make something concurrent with that same narrative that's actually in a different format. Basically, like a short story or maybe like a short film that kind of tells the same story, different format, kind of show a difference in presentation and format ideas. Significant. Now, basically, in showing the impact of narrative in video games and how it can hit different from multiple, with trans narrative, it's basically something that exists across all media formats. Like basically all these franchises. Usually, there's a very distinct format it comes in, but there's usually a story within those worlds that exist in different formats. You have even funnier is that like the 40K and D&D worlds, that's a tabletop setting that's recently like each time gets adapted into like multiple novel like hundreds of novellas, couple of short spin-offs that other people like basically make worlds based off of it. Most of the MCU is basically already based on a comic book universe, but the whole thing even extends to board games and other video game universes of its own world with these same characters. And then even with Star Wars, it kind of gets weird because there's like a whole bunch of pre-Legends content and then post-canon content where it's like full on. Okay, I'm getting a bit off tangent, but I'll go back to it. But basically, adaptation across those media formats connect to the same story or themes of that world, basically, and it just keeps building onto it. And because it has a more ontological presentation of basically combining all the aspects of like music, programming, and even some very questionable VFX. Actually, wait, that's pre-production VFX. As basically emphasis on other media formats become more of an important in construction and further evolution of the industry of gaming as a whole, and basically because there's more changes to like how you can add music, VFX, even AI too, as it's more accessible to use. You can basically and advance more so. So building off of a whole foundation, it can just ever upward by like a linking freaking timeline as it just goes on. Now, this is more so just a data projection of like for the proposed project of how much time it'll take to work on versus weeks of the semester. Basically, all of this is per day too, so it's like a whole lot of time to try to work on something for one whole project. Probably should have picked a better data analysis. Now, the target audience, for obvious reason, is I would probably say anyone, but for the sake of thematic focus, I'm just going to say students who are fans of these type of games, like basically either single player or actually, I'm still kind of debating whether or not to keep it single. Educators looking into this media format at more expansive lens, and just any young kid looking for entertainment. Like you got to actually always make sure to at least broaden the spectrum a bit to make it accessible for anyone. And basically, to present the idea in full, I'll try to tell the same story across, like basically said as stated earlier. That's how I was going to do it. It's just basically, and then show a difference in impact based on those different media formats. Like some things let's say like some things don't hit quite the same when you read it versus how it's presented in like an acted format. Now, preparation process is pre-production is just writing, storyboarding, pacing of the initial story, production, coding, artwork, polishing the of story, and then post is just playtesting, present to others, maybe conceptualize for something later, or like basically just expand upon it. And one of the deliverables is simple 2D game. Not sure which genre to go for. It still has to work off of the other deliverable of a fully written short story, which I can actually deliver on that one first. And then the optional one of a third one is one short film or an EP, or basically just present the design doc as a whole. Now, this is going to be optional only for several reasons of time constraints, but if none of this is doable, I can probably change over to practicum if it's like basically unable to. But that is just the essential planning. Thank you very much. Any questions?